We'll move on to back to the regular agenda. Call to the public. May I remind you, you have 3 minutes. Please abide by the rules for civility. And with that, we will begin. Paul Parisi. Happy New Year, Paul.
Happy New Year. I'm Paul Parisi, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Excuse me. Madam Chairman, members of the board, Paul Parisi, representing For Tucson. And our mission is to be the catalyst to bring about societal and spiritual transformation for the prosperity of the community. I'm so happy to be here today with all these law enforcement people and elected officials, seeing everyone be sworn in, taking the oath of office, and be willing to serve our county and our state and our country. Fort Tucson is having our third annual reception and blessing for elected officials and first responders on January 27th. This gives us at Fort Tucson a chance to honor you, the elected officials, and to also honor and bless the first responders that put their lives on the line every single day to serve and protect us. You're all welcome to come, and the public's welcome to come. If you just go to forttucson.com/events and look at January 27th, and that will be the date. I also want you to put something else on your calendar, and that's what you do every year, and that's our National Day of Prayer. And this year it's going to be on May 7th. And I just want to thank you for your continued support. Every year you do a proclamation. I'll be coming to you again asking for another one, proclaiming May 7th is National Day of Prayer. I thank you so much. You've been serving. Now we have all these elected officials now to start their terms of office, Lord, and we just want you to know that God is blessing you for that. No one gets into the position without God's authority, and I thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Drew Heaton.
Need to be reset. It's counting down from 1. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the board, Supervisor Christie. As a constituent in your district, I sincerely hope you will bring some balance and justice to this government process. I'm only one of your constituents, but I represent thousands. I assure you, the reason they are not here in the room isn't because they're apathetic or uninterested. They're simply struggling out there to provide for their families. We recognize that this is how representative government works. We could guard over our homes with a water hose or a firearm to protect it. We could spend hundreds of hours studying the law to understand and enforce it, but instead, we grant some of our powers to government, to you, our representatives. One of the mistakes good people make is thinking that they can vest powers in government that they don't have. Let me say that another way. The only power proper and just government has is already an inherent power that the people possess. I do not have the right to take property from my neighbor. That is called stealing. Therefore, government does not have that right either. I do not have the right to poison my neighbor's water or food supply. That is slow and quick, depending on the poison, murder. Governments around the world have certainly perpetuated many atrocities on their people. But does this define who we are as the United States of America? Monsanto is guilty of both theft and murder, and they are hiding behind the improper use of law. Since I've started speaking out publicly about the threat of Monsanto coming into our community, I've heard these common responses. There's really nothing that we can do. The law allows this. This is not our responsibility. Or we're not making a moral judgment of the company, it's simple economics. This is emphatically not true. Just law is our servant, not our master. Mr. Christie, members of the board, the thousands of people I represent do not want Monsanto to receive a tax break. We don't even want Monsanto in our community or its poisons. I hope that you are listening. We are awake and watching, and we are holding each and every one of you accountable, as we should. Thank you.
Jerry Ottoboni.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Board of Supervisors. My name's Jerry Ottoboni, and I live in Oro Valley. And I want to congratulate Steve Christie on his election and Supervisor Alan on winning 2 elections. I wasn't going to mention this, but now I will. My father, many decades ago, came from Italy, an Italian, and years ago he was bullied, and Trump wasn't there. I was taller than other kids and skinny with glasses. I was bullied. Trump wasn't there. My son was bullied for having a hearing-impaired sister, my daughter, and she was bullied mercifully. Trump wasn't there. So therefore, bullying has been going on for decades, unfortunately. And anyone who blames Trump is uninformed. Also, Trump is not anti-Semitic. His daughter is married to a Jewish gentleman, and I believe she had to become Jewish as well. The item I really wanted to speak about was how despicable it is when our Pima County sheriffs haven't had a raise. Not only is Mr. Huckleberry wanting to give our money, our taxpayer dollars, to Monsanto, who has been kicked out of countries and states with hundreds of lawsuits and causing many illnesses. Our sheriffs put their lives on the line daily. They, not Monsanto, deserve taxpayer dollars. In addition, Mr. Huckleberry, in a bad economy, is asking for $8,000 raise. You 3, Mr. Elias, Valdez, and Ms. Bronson, have continually voted to give Mr. Huckleberry a raise. Your actions speak louder than your words. You say you're for poor people, yet you continually do this. Then, you obviously have no concern for your sheriffs. Shame on you. Your sheriffs, not Monsanto, or Mr. Huckleberry, deserve the raise. Thank you.
Joni Pinkney. Joni Pinkney. Johnny Pinkney.
Good morning. My name is Joni Pinkney. I coach statistics for the social sciences at Pima Community College Learning Center West Campus. And I've been asked to come in and talk a little bit about the scientific method and the experimental procedures in context of Monsanto's products. In science, we generally start off by assuming that there is no treatment effect. In the case of genetic engineering, we would start off by assuming that these items are safe. And then we go on to do experiments, and these experiments must include a statistically significant sample size, and they must also include a control, and there's all sorts of technicalities involved. And then these experiments go on to try and prove what we're actually trying to prove. In this case, we want to prove whether or not genetically engineered foods are in fact not safe. Until this is actually proven, it is assumed to be safe. However, there are flaws with that problem, is because if we do not yet have proof that genetically engineered foods are are not safe, then they are still assumed to be safe. For this same reason, cigarette smoking for a while was assumed to be safe, asbestos was assumed to be safe, thalidomide was assumed to be safe, and so on. So we really can't afford to be experimenting with our lives, assuming that these things are safe, when in fact they have simply not been proven to be unsafe. There have been no long-term studies on the safety of genetically engineered foods on humans simply because such studies are not feasible. But that does not allow us to assume that they are safe. In other words, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicki Davis. She's coming.
Madam Chairman and Board of Supervisors and Supervisor Huckleberry, I just wanted to ask a question, given the condition of our roads and the fact that our police officers haven't had a raise in a long time, and given the fact that you keep raising our property taxes, which is especially harmful to those on fixed incomes and in poverty. I don't understand why you would ask for an $8,000 a year raise, which is astounding. And I just hope that you reconsider that and do take care of the things that you should be taking care of rather than giving frivolous things away with our tax money. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Eileen, is it Agar? Eileen, okay, Eileen.
Sorry, this is the first time I've been here, so I'm scared half to death.
You don't look frightened.
Anyway, thank you for listening to me. At your last meeting, when the We Stand Together initiative was presented, I thought to myself, you all represent the entire county, but you didn't act that way. You acted like you represented only the ones that think the same way that you do. Supervisor Valadez, you said this: we all need to speak out on this initiative, so I'm coming here to speak out on it. I know you will judge me and think me a fool because I think differently than you do. I am willing to be judged by you just as you have, in your comments, prejudged our president-elect and used his words against him and made a political issue out of this initiative that was presented to you, which I believe was actually meant to be, political in the first place. What I have in my hands here are emails and letters condemning me and calling me obscenities for my conservative values. You also will call me racist and bigot, as they did, because you won't open up your minds to anything other than what you believe is true. I am none of those things. I have been harassed. My company management has been threatened if they did not fire me. I have been threatened with bodily harm. Because of these threats, I respectfully request that you consider placing a decal on each and every Pima County building, demanding that conservatives be protected. I request that your Pima County employees be trained to protect me and my conservative values and those of other conservatives and provide a safe place for me. That statement, of course, is a joke. I request that you do a full study of the statistics that Kelly and Brian have presented to you and verify that they are correct. I believe that they are not correct. I request that you do not make a decision until the president-elect has been in office for at least 6 months. And in any case, that you do not agree to go against federal laws when you don't even know what those laws might be yet. Do not make fools of yourselves and our county by jumping to a decision on such an initiative that only doubles down on the U.S. Constitution. In the meantime, if these people are so afraid that they think a plaque on a county building will protect them, they should probably take self-defense lessons and learn to be more tolerant of those with opposing views and not make each event into a big deal. We have all been called names or harassed at one time or another in our lives. The best way to turn a bully coward down is to not react to them or call 911 if it gets serious. The people who are performing these acts are being manipulated for someone's political agenda.
Your time has expired. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sheldon Whitman. Is Sheldon here?
Over there.
Okay.
Supervisor Christie, I wish you well. Alan Miller, I think that the issue of marijuana use, I don't understand the vote that was taken past marijuana. I was here on that day, and it was rammed through. I don't know where Alan Miller was that day. We had Sharon Bronson and Ray Carroll voting against that. Where were you, Ali? That 3 votes could have defeated the marijuana vote. I have a book here by one of the godfathers of against the legalization of marijuana. Marijuana Debunked by Ed Gogek, MD. I just would like to refer to these things and the downside, medical stories, association between marijuana use and cognitive function in middle age, marijuana effects on brain changes in brain structure, cognitive function, and just a few things I'd like to refer to here. An IQ study done by Duke University and a university in New Zealand, the heaviest marijuana users lost an average of 8 IQ points. This is big enough to change their lives. 8 points could mean the difference between getting into a good or a mediocre university. Furthermore, he talks about the harm of affecting the brain structure. So I hope there is a revisit to the vote on the use of marijuana. It's time that the public at large, newspaper stories, the Republicans control the state legislature. We'd like to have Dr. Gogek, perhaps he could testify here before the Board of Supervisors with Eileen and Supervisor Miller here. So, Happy New Year to you all. Have a blessed New Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Whitman. John Backer.
Good morning, Chair Bronson, Board of Supervisors, and Administrator Huckleberry. Congratulations on being elected to serve the people of Pima County. You were elected not so much on what you've done in the past, but what you're expected to do in the future over the next 4 years. Your 4-year term starts today with perhaps one of the most important decisions you will make during this term, whether to extend the contract of Administrator Huckleberry. I realize he's asked for a raise, but if you listen to the will of Pima County, that won't be an issue. Huckleberry has served Pima County for a long time, starting his career in 1974. At that time, I was 9 years old, and now I find myself approaching 52. He quickly moved up the ranks in his early 30s, Director of Transportation and Flood Control Department, became Interim County Administrator in 93 and County Administrator in 94. There's a long track record on which to base your decision today. In 2002, talking about how $350 million in highway user funds for 57 road projects had been badly mishandled with contracts awarded to firms with political connections, Supervisor Carroll told the Arizona Daily Star, Huckleberry's tenure has been marked by a culture of corruption. That's 15 years ago. In 2012, Marana Town attorney Frank Cassidy said the county has created a culture of intimidation in reference to proposed bond election with more than 100 individual projects and sub-projects, which overwhelmed the advisory committee members to the point where they deferred to Huckleberry's recommendations. In June 2013, the Board of Supervisors approved a $1.7 million planning and design contract to realign Hughes Access Road to create a buffer zone for Raytheon to provide them space to expand, moving a road 2,500 feet south at a cost of about $8 million. In the end, Raytheon officials denied involvement, and the spokesperson said the project was, quote, Pima County's ideas, not ours, end quote. The awkwardly positioned road runs along property owned by Don Diamond, where a housing development is planned. What a coincidence. In 2015, Pima County voters rejected a huge bond proposal, which was heavily promoted by Mr. Huckleberry. Then recently, soon after the election, in fact, Mr. Huckleberry proposed removing the requirement of unanimous vote when raising taxes. Therefore, it's clear that Administrator Huckleberry doesn't feel the people of Pima County are taxed enough and plans to continue to raise taxes. Administrator Huckleberry won the Transportation Legacy Award last year for his work in transportation in Pima County. It was fitting that KVOA reported the news on April Fool's Day. Comments on the online version of the story are pretty consistent in negative sentiment. Dave Ramsey once said, broke people giving financial advice is like a shop teacher with missing fingers. I urge you to put the power tools away unless you're ready to urge them to cut spending and watch your fingers. I request and expect a unanimous no vote on extension.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired. Thank you. Stephanie Stark.
Welcome. Steve Christie, as I said, you're the supervisor for my district. This is only my second meeting that I've ever attended. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm Dr. Stephanie Stark, and I'm here to speak against a tax break for Monsanto. I'm licensed by the state of Arizona as a primary care provider, and I serve that purpose for approximately 30% of my patients. I'll give you a brief background about myself so that you understand why I'm here, missing a morning of work to be here. I did my pre-med at UT Austin. I went on to a 4-year medical school at Bastyr University in Seattle, and I specialized in naturopathic primary care. As a naturopathic physician, my goal is to get to the root cause of people's health issues, and for over 10 years, I found that diet is a large component, as is pollution. Right now, this whole discussion is about a company that actually messes with both of these. The patients who don't use me as their PCP see me as a specialist or a second or third or fourth opinion. My specialty is to get to the root cause of people's health issues, and I'm telling you this because many of us that are here speaking about Monsanto are against a tax break. I'd like to say I'm the one that's figured out that GMO foods and pesticides have been an issue for my patients, but actually all of the ones have figured it out on their own. I do help them with other things, though, I promise. The people that I see are often a canary in the coal mine, so they're getting health issues before the rest of our population. The 2 handouts that I gave you today, Steve Christie, one of them I gave last time, and it's from a scientific journal, and it's called Monsanto's Sealed Documents Reveal the Truth Behind Roundup's Toxicological Dangers. It's actually the references for the article. That means that you don't even need to get the author's opinion, just have you or your staff please look at those references. This is all science. I am not someone who believes in conspiracy theories, and I'm not here to promote some far-out agenda. I'm here because I care about the health of my community. I do have a few questions. One is, if there are 39 countries and counting who are prohibiting Monsanto in their country, and there are, that I know of, 2 states and 9 cities suing Monsanto for the havoc that they've wreaked on their cities or states, why are we considering allowing them moving here? And why on earth are we considering allowing them a tax break? Also, I'm wondering how it works with transparency on this issue, and I'm wondering if there are any conflicts of interest. I am not one who spreads rumors. I am one who goes directly to someone if I think something is going on that doesn't seem right. I'd like to know who asked for the trade zone designation that would give Monsanto a tax break, because the rumor is that it was Sun Corridor. I don't want to discredit anything that I have said, But Sharon Bronson, if you're on the board for Sun Corridor and they ask for this trade zone designation, I just wonder if this is a conflict of interest. And I do have respect for you all, and I thank you for serving our community, but please be transparent with us. If there's something that we need to know, we'd like to know it. Otherwise, it's just rumors, and we just want to get to the heart of the issue. Okay? So anyway, you know why I'm here. You know why many of us are here. Please stand up if you're here against Monsanto. Thank you.
Jay Wells. Jay Wells.
Good morning and Happy New Year, Supervisors. Mr. Huckleberry, Jay Wells, I'm the president of Rito Racing. By the way, for the record, I'd just like to say I prefer speaking to you this way, Madam Chair. Thank you for the last time and giving me that privilege. I'm here today to support fair racing. There's been a long history of fair racing in all of Arizona. It was a circuit that traveled all around. In fact, Sonoyta for Santa Cruz just had their 100th fair race. I want to explain to you that the fair racing is nothing but an arrangement between the state and the racetracks so that monies that would go to the state for taxes are be able to be kept by the Fair Racing Commission for Pima County in order to support fair racing here. We think this is long overdue. We're excited about it, and we're planning on bringing back the fair aspect of it as well, bringing in an old arcade. It's a wonderful partnership with the commissioners, and we will hope you will support that wholeheartedly. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jay. Bill Beard.
Thank you. I do want to echo the comments of the lady speaking earlier about speech, because that's what brought me here today. A few weeks ago, this body, at least its previous incarnation, heard a presentation from folks regarding hate crimes. The implication of the back and forth that I understand happened between the board and those individuals seemed to draw a direct connection between whether or not speech should be considered some kind of thing that needs to be kept safe from people that may perceive it as being some kind of harm to them. Let's be clear, crime is crime. It shouldn't need any other label than that. It doesn't matter the intent. Causing someone harm is wrong. We have quite a few laws on the books governing this sort of things. We have a new sheriff, in fact, dedicated to doing just that, and I believe there's a good number of the folks across the back of the room that do that on a daily basis. What I find troubling is that this body, with the exception of Supervisor Miller and Supervisor Christie, seemed intent to define these crimes to now include speech. However you want to define it, each of you took an oath this morning, in fact, to protect something called the U.S. Constitution as well as the Arizona Constitution. It should not need to be said that speech is something that is to be protected and not prosecuted by government at any level. This body seems intent on now providing all county employees training on how to provide safe spaces for anyone feeling harmed by speech. Again, let's be clear. Anyone facing physical harm should and will receive the full protection of the law. However, many of the crimes spoken about last month seem to be no more than words spoken in anger or haste. I should not need to remind this body of a lesson every school child learns on the playground. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Although now that I think about it, all too many government officials these days have distanced themselves so far from everyday life, a reminder may be necessary. Government's job is to protect the rights of citizens, not wrap them in bubble wrap or provide safe spaces in some misguided attempt to keep everyone from hearing bad words. Surprise, life is not fair. It's not government's job to keep us shielded from words you or I might find offensive. The Constitution you swore to uphold says nothing about freedom to not be offended. Now, as to what training county employees should receive about this matter, I would again refer you to that U.S. and Arizona Constitutions. Train every county employee as to what is in those documents, and I can guarantee you that most every problem this board faces will disappear.
Kavinsky.
Welcome, Supervisor Christie. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kevin Kavinsky. I come to you as the chairman of the Pima County Deputy Sheriff's Association, speaking on behalf of the majority of the Pima County Sheriff's deputies and corrections officers, as well as the civilian staff of the Sheriff's Department. Madam Chair and members of the board, I originally intended on delivering a long and poignant speech in regards to what has transpired over the last year and a half under the purview of the Board of Supervisors as it applied to choices made and to address the recent contract offer of Mr. Huckleberry. After reflection and in best service to the community and Pima County Sheriff's Department, I've decided to save those comments and give them to you in written form in hopes that you would review them prior to casting a vote on the new contract of Mr. Huckleberry. These same documents will be shared with the media and proper authorities. Rather, first and foremost, I would like to take this time to congratulate and thank Sheriff Mark Napier on his successful election and sacrifice during his campaign. I'd like to thank Marlene Napier and her children for their tireless sacrifice over the last year to help their husband and father accomplish a lifelong dream, one that is well-deserved and one that is welcomed by all. In addition, I would like to extend a very humble thank you to the men and women of the associations and to the leaders of the community that supported, listened to, and backed the men and women behind the badge and the civilians hard at work for your support and continued backing going into the future. The community, your constituents, have expressed their desire for change. The PCDSA, PCCOA, FOP, TPOA, and many others are excited for the positive change going into the future and embrace the ideals of newly elected Sheriff Mark Napier and his pragmatic approach to real solutions to get us back on track, despite being left with serious concerns financially from the previous command's decisions. Sheriff Napier, you have our respect, our commitment, and our tenacity to serve you in the same fashion in which you have demonstrated to us over the last year. To the Board of Supervisors, once again, the combined associations ask that you take time before the agenda item and in best interest of the community and your constituents to review the documents provided. We look forward to working further with the Board of Supervisors moving into the future and taking a more proactive approach to the protection and service of the community. Thank you.
Sergeant Christopher Cole.
If I could have a second before I start. Mr. Elias, I'm about ready to ask that the agenda be printed in a larger font. Yes. Good morning, all. Happy New Year. My name is Christopher Cole. I'm recently re-elected the first vice chair of the Pima County Libertarian Party. I've got 2 points for today. Hate crimes, safe spaces. Well, you know, I've been investigating this, and a significant portion of these reported hate crimes were not actually events that happened. Or if they did happen, they were self-inflicted in order to generate the publicity against somebody else. They were false flag hate crimes. Safe spaces. Well, as was pointed out, there's no guarantee that you are allowed to be free from being offended. Nowhere. Offense happens. I can walk down the street and see things that I'm offended. I'm an adult. I get over it. I don't whine and cry. And you shouldn't either. My second point, Pima County cannot afford Mr. Huckleberry, not his salary, not his schemes. Pima County is amongst the approximately 3,300 counties, one of the poorest. Various reports put us down around 5th poorest, 7th poorest, 9th poorest, somewhere around there. And we're shooting to become number 1. The poorest. We cannot afford the schemes that Mr. Huckleberry keeps presenting to the board. The bond debt of Pima County is enormous, and the bond payments go out of Pima County and enrich Wall Street. They don't enrich Tucson, they don't enrich Pima County, because what happens, and I used to be in the business, okay? What happens is the local banks will buy the bonds and then sell them to Wall Street to free up their capital. They very rarely keep anything but local small debt. They sell it. And it goes to Wall Street, and the money, principal and interest, to the big banks on Wall Street. And that doesn't help Pima County. And a lot of the projects don't help Pima County, just the elite cronies. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Taleb. Lisa? Thank you for putting your comments in writing. It's helpful.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. My name is Elizabeth or Lisa Taleb. I'm a small business owner and recent Pima County resident. I just moved here from Austin, Texas, September 1st of 2016. And my original plan was to buy a home here after a year or two of renting and figuring out where I wanted to live. But honestly, if Monsanto gets their way in Pima County, I will be forced to relocate again. You see, during my research phase to determine what city would be best for me to move to, my top consideration was my health and recovering from multiple chronic issues that I've had since childhood, which have only gotten worse, allergies, migraines, and the list goes on. In my hours spent online reading about various places, I came across countless stories of elderly couples with fragile health who had struggled with chronic pain elsewhere, yet found they could live healthy and thrive in Tucson thanks to the clean, dry mountain air and plentiful health food here. I was shocked, horrified, and angered to learn about Pima County offering Monsanto tax incentives to come here, given their long track record of polluting ecosystems around the world, using slick PR and corporate lawyers to cover up wrongdoing and dodge responsibility. It is baffling to watch a county board jump at the chance to welcome such a notoriously evil company as Monsanto into our community. Time and time again, Monsanto has smooth-talked its way out of taking responsibility for the environmental destruction they have caused. Ultimately, when lawsuits have shown their culpability, they throw a settlement check at the community they destroyed before picking up shop and moving to another location. This money barely scratches the surface of making the broad, deep repairs necessary to restore the ecosystem. And when it comes to the reason why so many visitors, winter visitors and transplants choose Tucson and invest in second homes here, it's not just about the warm weather. Health and ecology are at the top of the list of what makes this such a desirable place for so many people. Should Pima choose corporate money over the well-being of its own citizens, we will not only use the UNESCO City of Gastronomy designation, but as a region, we're likely to lose revenue from people who used to come here for their health and now have moved on to somewhere else. Because of my own chronic health issues and food allergies, I've done a lot of research into the dangers and risks of GMO foods, including the aggressive overuse of pesticides and antibiotics, and the common occurrence of GMO poisons and seeds contaminating neighboring organic farms. It's not enough for people like me to just boycott GMO foods. I can't boycott air pollution. And my choice to buy organic foods from local farmers is totally sabotaged when the GMO chemicals and seeds blow across, and then Monsanto decides to sue the organic farmers for stealing their seed. Now, GMO agriculture is a massive, uncontrolled experiment on the general population without our consent. Over 90% of Americans would like to see mandatory food labeling of GMOs, but here again, the rich and powerful Monsanto has used its influence to thwart any and all food labeling efforts, even in Vermont, where the citizens voted overwhelmingly in favor of those labels. As all of us citizens today really just ask you to pause and reevaluate this decision from a public health perspective versus just thinking of it as money.
Thank you, and your time has expired. And we've got your full comments in the post. Julia, is that Granone? Julia?
Dr. Granone had to leave.
Okay. Mindy Bruder?
Good morning. My name is Mindy Bruder, and I'm a Marana resident. I'd like to address the issue of Chuck Huckleberry's contract today. I'm asking the board to vote no on the renewal. Sir, you are the second highest paid supervisor in the nation. The fact that you're asking for a raise is insulting to the citizens of Pima County, and honestly, it's infuriating. We have roads to be fixed, not your bank account. According to KVOA News 4, his combined annual salary is around $320,000. The News 4 investigators filed public requests with all 15 counties to compare administrators' salaries. Huckleberry's salary is $75,000 more than Arizona's second highest paid administrator, Thomas Manos, who makes $246,000. It's nearly triple the $113,000 that the state's lowest paid county administrators make. His pay is more than the governor's, the attorney general's, and the secretary of state's combined. It only comes in lower than President Obama's salary of $400,000 and the only higher county manager's salary of $355,000, which is paid to the LA County CEO. But more than the issue of his salary is his apathy for the citizens of Pima County, to which he is obligated to protect. Quite recently, Mr. Huckleberry was interviewed on the John C. Scott Show, where he was asked about the issue concerning Monsanto. His response was that bringing Monsanto here is a way to bring in tax revenue and fix our roads. Yet, here we are, fighting you to deny Monsanto tax breaks and incentives. What we want is simple. We want to protect and encourage local sustainable food sources. We want to ensure the protection of our environment, because what will happen when Monsanto leaves after they've destroyed our environment, our water, and our health? We've seen what they do. We merely have to look to Hawaii and Washington State. Currently, Washington State is suing Monsanto. Attorney General Bob Ferguson said, quote, "It's time to hold the sole U.S. manufacturer of PCBs accountable for the significant harm they've caused to our state," noting that the chemicals continue to imperil the health of protected wildlife, despite the tens of millions of dollars Washington State has spent to clean up the pollution. Monsanto produced PCBs for decades while hiding what they knew about the toxic chemicals' harm to human health and the environment, end quote. And now they want to come here. What are they knowingly hiding from us about Project Corn and its experimental herbicides and pesticides? Please stop them now while there's still time. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Rose.
I would like to request to wait till Mr. Valadez comes back before I make my comments. I've worked hard to address all five of you. Would that be all right for me to take a seat and have someone else speak?
He's in the back. And he can hear you. So
is that a no? Okay. Well,
He'll
I'm really
be back
sorry.
shortly.
I'm really sorry to not be able to speak to the whole board. Good morning. Please, I only have 3 minutes. My name is Angela Rose. I'm a resident, rental property owner, and longtime member of the arts community in Pima County. I come to speak with you today not to log a complaint, but actually to offer a suggestion for the contract negotiations regarding the county administrator position. The suggestion has 3 parts. 1, allow the current contract to expire. 2, appoint an interim administrator, and while that person is in place, and together with public input, update the job description for the new county administrator. And 3, search for a new county administrator. The discussion on Monsanto provides an opportunity to restructure a job description that has not been updated for perhaps 22 years. In that amount of time, technology, social media, and a global economy have emerged that have changed the way people expect to interact with each other and with their governments. In crafting a new job description, please consider including the following requirements. A, the administrator will report to and carry out the decisions of the board and demonstrate in word and deed this clear chain of command. B, secrecy and entering into non-disclosure agreements with outside agencies without prior written direction from the board should be strictly prohibited. If it happens, it should be addressed and remedied immediately by the board. C, The administrator is required to provide the public with a clear understanding of the benefits and risks and the who, what, where, when, why, and how corporations come to be offered tax incentives by Pima County. D, the administrator must ensure the agenda items and proposals submitted for vote be offered well in advance of meetings. 5 days' notice before a vote is not sufficient time for thoughtful consideration of facts. E, the administrator shall serve for a specific time frame. Term limits must be included in the new job description in order to bring in new blood and ideas and to prevent bad business practices. In closing, I urge the board to resist the temptation to go back to business as usual and resolve to find a new county administrator. Provide the residents of Pima County leadership that is transparent. Contracts should not be awarded based on murky habits of the past. Contracts should be awarded based on a clearly stated vision of sustaining Pima County for the future.
Thank you. Melissa Diane Smith. Melissa Diane Smith.
Good morning. Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome to the board, Supervisor Christie. You might remember that I'm a journalist, nutritionist, and the author of Going Against GMOs, and the last few months I've been educating people in many different parts of Pima County about your considering giving a tax break to Monsanto. At the October 18th board meeting, I mentioned The World According to Monsanto. A group of concerned citizens and I are showing this film this Friday at 6:30 p.m. at Greenfield School Auditorium, and I'd like to formally invite you and everyone here to come to the movie and learn about the record and business practices of Monsanto. At the November 22nd meeting, I gave you pictures of a toxic red dust cloud that came from Monsanto's cornfields in Molokai. Those pictures came from a film called Molokai Mom, and we're showing that film in another educational event this Saturday at 2 p.m. at Tucson Waldorf School. Please come and learn the same information other people in Tucson are learning. As Mindy mentioned, since the last time I spoke here, the state of Washington sued Monsanto in December for damages and cleanup costs from toxic PCBs. And as Supervisor Elias wrote in the Star, we want healthy economic development in Pima County. But if we are to entice companies here with tax or other benefits, we want business and industry that will operate in an above-board manner and will not contaminate our soil, water, or air. Look at the evidence. Monsanto is not that company. Two other things. One, you promised open public meetings about Monsanto. The first one starts in 6 days, and I'm very disappointed in you that you haven't given the public ample time to know about and plan for these meetings. Also, Chuck Huckleberry is the highest paid county administrator in the state by far, and as far as I can see, we wouldn't be in this mess with Monsanto if he hadn't opened the door with his secret negotiations, and I'm irate about that. 23 years is too long for a non-elected official who is moving this county in a disastrous and dangerous direction. I strongly urge you not to renew his contract and to vote no on a tax break for Monsanto.
Corey McGraw. Corey McGraw.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year. My name is Corey McGraw, and I'm a concerned citizen, voter, and small business owner. I'm missing work today here, as are a number of other people, to speak out against the Monsanto tax incentive. In November, we heard hours of testimony from citizens saying no on the Monsanto tax break. 3 to 4 hours of testimony, as I recall, versus only approximately 12 minutes in favor of Monsanto. And as I recall, the board's feedback was that it seems that the citizens want to get rid of Monsanto altogether, which granted would be fabulous. And you mentioned that you don't have the power to do that. But what you do have the power to do is to stop giving them such an incentive to come here. We can say no to the tax incentive, and there's the possibility that Monsanto may move on to greener pastures, if you'll pardon the pun. I had a really interesting conversation last night, and it ties in really well with this topic. A friend called, wished me Happy New Year, said, what are you up to in 2017? I said, well, I'm on my way to the Pima County board meeting tomorrow. And she said, well, you know, my father worked for Monsanto. She said he was a high-level executive with that company. At that point, I started to sweat a little bit, like, oh, I hope I'm not offending my friend with what I'm doing. But she said, you know, I only saw my father cry one time. And that one time was when he found out what Monsanto was doing and what inadvertently he had done through his career with Monsanto. This man was a high-level executive there, and she told me that there is, in fact, somewhere in Monsanto a bust of him. So for somebody at that level to say, whoa, this is really bad, what have we done? He walked away from Monsanto, and she said that he never got over the regret that he felt about what he had participated in. And she said that he spent the rest of his days volunteering for causes to save the environment, save the ocean, but he carried that so heavily within himself. And just to give you a sense of the weight of this was a man who had walked side by side with Martin Luther King Jr. and was heavily involved in the civil rights movement, had been a target of racial injustices in the Deep South and violence and all kinds of hatred that he had personally experienced. And it wasn't that brought him to his knees sobbing like a child. It was Monsanto and what they had done. So I leave you with that as you consider whether this is the corporate citizen that you want to welcome into our community. I personally believe you could not choose a worse corporate citizen than Monsanto, and I urge you to consider voting no on the tax incentive for them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Roger Discol. Roger Discol.
Chairman Bronson, board members, my name's Roger Score, and I'm here to let you know, because we're going out on being offended, that I'm also offended. I'm offended when I show up to your Pima County building here, and you can't even follow state law. You got people out there that don't even know what ARS 13-3108 is. They're keeping records of people checking in firearms. Not only is that a violation of state law and offends me, but it's also a reason for immediate end of your job. No excuses. So I go to the sheriff out there, a few sheriff's officers. They don't know what the law is. They tell me either to violate my rights and sign into your book or leave the building. I find that very offensive. Other things I find offensive are, I find it offensive when I'm out shopping at Sam's Club. I'm legally carrying my firearm to defend me and other clients in the store, and a man and his son comes up to me and the man spits in my face and wants to know if I'm going to shoot him. I find that very offensive. I also think it's very offensive when I campaign for my candidate of choice and I put my Trump sign up in my front yard and some lowlife comes up into my yard, violates trespassing laws, and tears up my Trump sign in my front yard. That's kind of violent also, isn't it? I was also offended when a bunch of lowlifes drove around Tucson and tore down every Trump sign as quick as I'd put them up. They'd violate state law and tear them down. They'd tear down one, I'd put up 5 more. They'd tear those down, I'd put up 10 more. That offends me, that you can't even have political discussion in this country. It also offended me when my son put a Trump sign on his new car. And one of the lowlifes comes by and paints racist on his car because he put up a Trump sticker. That's really offensive. Maybe you ought to get a safe zone for me to go to. I was also offended when Sharon Bronson, you violated stupid motorist laws and drove our taxpayer-funded vehicle right into a wash and destroyed our property that we pay for. But you're above the law. You weren't prosecuted for it. You didn't lose your county vehicle. In fact, you got reelected because the people in this county are so stupid they just keep reelecting you.
Expired.
Thank you.
Susan Sargent.
She listed her comments but chose not to speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Joanne Marks.
Hi, I'm Joanne Marks, and I'm a 15-year resident of Pima County. I'm a professional with degrees in mathematics and clinical psychology, as well as an owner of 2 past successful million-dollar businesses. I only tell you that to let you know that I am skilled in what I'm speaking about. I urge you not to renew Huckleberry's contract. It is your responsibility to search for the most qualified candidate, not just the same old guy who gave Supervisors Elias, Bronson, and Valdez their jobs over 20 years ago. I'm sure you have violated several dozen federal and state laws because of your proper lack of procedures and lack of due diligence when considering the rehire of an employee. You seem to forget that you work for the people of Pima County, not Huckleberry. I know it's confusing because he has given you your jobs and has maintained you in those positions at an inflated rate of pay. The conflict is most likely a violation of state law. You have not provided the public with an overview of Huckleberry's performance or meetings of his goals. We often see in the newspaper how other administrators, such as the U of A President Hart, met her goals. Do you provide Huckleberry with specific measurable goals and metrics, which is the standard for professional assessments? Did the performance review mention his violations of the gift clause in building worldview space and lack of financial and specifics in that agreement? Have you set any standards for him to stop giving away tax breaks and taking county lands off the tax rolls by buying them up for speculative purposes? You have not given the people of Pima County this information in a timely manner, so we may comment. The scheme in which elections are held and the day after a new board is assembled, you call for a vote to renew the administrator's contract is very suspect and smacks of the same kind of dirty backroom dealings that are the hallmark of Mr. Huckleberry's tenure. Since you have no time to do an official proper review of Huckleberry's performance, and you have not even considered other candidates who might bring great knowledge, honesty, professionalism, and experience to the job that Mr. Huckleberry has been doing poorly for the past 24 years, and you have not allowed for citizen input, I recommend that Huckleberry remains in his position without a contract. If he chooses to leave, the huge staff that he has assembled could carry on in his absence. If not, there are executive management companies who could provide Pima County with a highly qualified professional manager until a new one is found. And I strongly suggest a citizen search committee be formed to oversee the hiring of an executive search company to provide candidates for this and for our new administrator. It is clear to me, and probably any judge who would review this case, that your inactions and inability to perform your own jobs of supervising, you're supposed to be supervising him, violates your oath of office. I strongly recommend that this board...
Thank you for your comments. Your time has expired.
Yeah, I have one more thing. I strongly recommend... I understand. I strongly recommend that the board get professional training on how to be proper and legal as soon as possible so that you can work together as a comprehensive board.
Ann Lawfield.
Good morning. Happy New Year. I'm glad to be back again. This has been my favorite topic of late. You've heard lots of testimony, including this morning. I've also given you some links to some very important studies about Monsanto, because you have a responsibility to protect our environment and our health. And if you won't go look at those links, I'll be very disappointed. Monsanto has made a really good job of saying all the people who are against us are total kooks, know nothings, they're following the wrong protocol. It's all just hogwash. These are well-respected scientists. They know what they're doing. They have been shut down because of the subject and because of the power of Monsanto. So I really urge you to do your own research on this. If you can read those articles and not be swayed, something's wrong somewhere. It's very persuasive, especially the first one, Dave Murphy. It's a very new study and very compelling. They're bringing out new research every week. It gets more and more damaging. And everything that Monsanto has said is being refuted. One being that we don't have this, I cannot say the word, something pathway, which is how glyphosate works. They say only plants have that pathway. Well, guess what? They found out the bacteria in our guts have the same apparatus. So the glyphosate gets into us, it goes through that pathway and into all of our cells of our body. It can literally kill us. It's very compelling. The other thing is, if there is a 10% chance that something will harm the health of our kids and our grandkids and us, wouldn't it be better to err on the side of caution? As the lady with the statistics said, the fact that we can't prove that there is harm doesn't mean there isn't harm. So 10% chance. I feed all my family all organic food. We grow it. That's why we're growing organic food, because we couldn't get food in the grocery stores that we feel is healthy. And you do have the power when it works for you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time has expired.
Wow.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
very much.
DJ Wood.
Hi.
Good
It's a new
morning.
year. New year known for fresh starts, fresh ways of looking at things. And so I would encourage you to take the Monsanto case as an opportunity to reset your compasses for a way of doing your civic duties, your jobs, your public servant role with greater transparency. I think you are going to, in the coming months, see citizen politicians and people from the local community encouraged by doing things differently to come and make their opinions known. I recently relocated to the Tucson area and from the state of California. Nobody throw anything. And my background, just for perspective, as I have a master's degree in environmental studies. I also have been on staff of large planning departments, both regional and city. So I have a little, maybe just a tiny bit of experience or insight into what it's like, making decisions based on time and data limitations. What I'd like to say is that without the opportunity for your electorate to feel they have the opportunity to be engaged, to be informed, and to have adequate time to reflect upon the information that you, as a conduit, provide to people is going to be attached to you as individuals in an unfortunate way. I don't think in the coming years, if you pursue public office, if you pursue public servanthood, that you want Monsanto to be associated with you as an individual. And that solely on the reputation that's come from independent scientists, analysts. I am not aligned with any environmental group. The only green I have is on my shirt. So I don't come politicized. I come just as a citizen. I've established roots here. I've formed a nonprofit. I'm committed to seeing our community grow and develop, and I've made lots of sacrifices to do that. But I really want you to encourage you, not even on the environmental side of things, although there are now 7 major cities on the West Coast that have aligned to form a class action suit against Monsanto. Seattle, Spokane, Washington, Oakland, San Jose, San Diego, and I think I might have left one out. Yeah, but that's okay. Pick up the phone and talk to the Board of Supervisors in any of those counties. Just say, what you got on Monsanto? Do you have any advice for me as a person of leadership?
Wrap up your comments. Your time has expired.
Okay. I would also encourage you not to renew the contract with Mr. Huckleberry. I have nothing against you, sir, but I think, as I said, a new wind's blowing and it's a chance to do things even better than before. And I wish you well, but based on what I've heard, I can't support you in your current office.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes Call to the Public. We've been at it for a little over an hour. We're going to take about a 10-minute recess and we'll reconvene at the sound of the gavel.